Drive, face the flag. Member of the department, good evening.
Okay, item number one, let's, number two, we did that. Number three, we are gonna, administration of oath of office to appointed Division One, Director Drew Mercy, and, who's gonna,
Senator George Runner. George Runner.
right, but, okay. So, need him, I mean, there's a procedure, you're gonna stand up.
Yeah, Drew can stand up and go to the podium. Yeah. Do you want to go to the podium, Drew, or do you want to do it right there?
That's good. I guess it depends on if you're going to be on the screen.
He's on the screen.
He's on the screen. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, shoot here.
Okay, that'll be good. So we have on Zoom this evening, former Senator George Runner, who's going to administer the oath for Drew Mercy. So good evening, Mr. Runner.
Good evening.
Hello, George.
Hey there.
All right.
We're ready to start.
George, do you have the oath of office script?
I have it here in front of me. Tell me when you're ready.
Yeah, you're ready. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, let me first of all congratulate the board. I think you made a very wise decision. But let's see. Let's see. Drew, will you raise your right hand, please?
He's got it up.
And repeat after me. I state your name, please.
Drew Mercy.
During such times as I hold the above office, do solemnly swear
During the times that I hold the above office, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of California,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. The Belizean government has assured me that even though I'm here, this still takes an effect. So, Drew, you're in. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir.
Hey, thank you. I'm going to sign off now.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye. Hey,
Thanks so
good to see you all. Bye-bye.
Okay. That's done. We fill that seat over there. Okay, so we're now, to item 3B. Let's have a roll call.
Thank you. Division 7, Gary Van Dam.
Here.
Division 6, Audrey Miller.
Here.
Division 5, Robert Paris.
Here.
Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
Division 1, Drew Mercy.
Here.
Division 3, Frank Donato.
Here.
Division 1, George Lane is not present. General Counsel Markman.
Mr. Markman is on Zoom, as well as Sullivan Kim, Deputy General Manager.
Right. General Manager Knutson,
Here.
and Holly Hughes present.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to item 4, voluntary public roll call. If there's any members of the public wish to introduce themselves, please feel free to do so now.
Hi, this is John Joyce for the Roseman News online and in print.
Thank you.
John Eucastet, Antelope Valley Mutual Group.
Good evening, John. Anybody else? I'm sorry, who's that? Did you get it? Okay, so I should have said, who's on Zoom?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do that from now on. Okay, so now in the audience,
Carmen Roberts, Exhibition Bay.
okay,
Alton Corner, Longdale Water District, and AB Water Master.
okay,
Hi, I'm Jeff Johnson. I'm also with Mission Bank.
thank you. Okay, that brings us, number 5, public comments and period open to public. If there's anyone wishes to address the board on any item not on the agenda, please feel free to do so. Okay. Brings us to, let's see, number 6, the adoption of the agenda.
And before the board votes on adopting the agenda this evening, we would like to table item number 8B1, B as in boy, regarding a report out of the High Desert Water Bank Committee.
Okay. So we need a motion to adopt 6A1 to, and also include 8B1
Yeah, to table that.
to table that.
Director Miller moves on that.
This is Rob. I'll second that motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Let's roll call.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
and George Lane is not present.
Okay. That brings us to item 7, consent calendar and action items for the public and the board shall have an opportunity to comment on any of these actions and consent calendar as a consent is considered collectively by the board and prior to action being taken. Any motion to accept the consent calendar?
Director Mercy, so moved. Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane is not present.
Okay, that brings us to item 8, consideration and possible action. B is Finance Committee. I'll go ahead and start with that. I'm chairman of that committee. 8A1, consider possible action to accept and file the check registry list June 2nd through the 14th, 23, and I'll have our general manager, Matt Newsom, go over this.
All right, thank you, Director Donato. Good evening, board. So beginning on page 24 of your board packet is the checklist for the agency, and this covers the period of June 2nd through June 14th. This checklist was reviewed in detail by the Finance Committee last Thursday. Nothing really jumps out. Everything's within the purchasing policy of the agency, so Finance Committee is recommending approval of the checklist.
Okay, the board order of A1, anybody, who's gonna give us a motion?
Director Miller will move on 8A1.
This is Rob. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes. Okay, brings us to 8A2, consider possible action to accept and file the treasurer's report for the month ending May 31st. And we're going to have our finance manager, Lisa Yates, give us a presentation on that.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. This is the treasurer's report for May 31st, 2023. And average yield to maturity for the total portfolio for May, 3.031%, which was up 0.081% from the prior month. Average days to maturity for the total portfolio, 265 days or approximately 9 months. And total cash and investments at May 31st was $127 million, which was down $2.1 million from the prior month.
Lisa, hang on a second.
Yeah.
We don't have it for the audience? We have people that would like to probably see what you're talking about.
Oh, they don't need to see me.
Yeah, hang on a second.
That's okay, really.
Did a good job.
And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, comments from the director? No? Okay, motion's in order to accept the treasury report.
Director Mercy, so moves.
Gary Van Dam, second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Let's have roll call, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes. Okay. So we're on 8A3, I consider impossible action on resolution R-2322, establishing designating signatories for the agency money market account.
All right, I'll take this item. Good evening, board. So on page 48 of your board packet is a brief staff report. So as mentioned, could you go to the next page, Chloe? Thank you. So a little bit of background. This item is to for consideration of resolution number R23-22, which would establish designated signatories for a new money market account the agency may wish to open up with Mission Bank here in the Valley. So we have representatives from Mission Bank here this evening, Carmen Roberts and Jeff Johnson, who introduced themselves part of the public roll call. So a little background, we were approached, staff was approached by Mission Bank. They've expressed interest in building a relationship with the Antelope Valley East Kern Water Agency. And as many of the longtime directors know, historically, we've done that. We've occasionally switched banks and offered opportunity to bank with the agency with some local banking institutions. So the Carmen and Jeff, they gave a nice presentation, introduction to the finance committee a couple months ago. Teresa Yates, finance manager, and myself, we've had some follow-up conversations with representatives from Mission Bank. And what we're recommending this evening is adoption of the resolution. And this is to establish the bank account with Mission Bank. And we would start with a money market account and depositing $1 million of the agency's funds into this account. It would come with a current interest rate of about 3.5%, which is a little bit higher than what we're seeing from the agency's LAIF accounts, which is the local agency investment fund. So this account has no withdrawal restrictions and is fully FDIC insured. So it also would be fully liquid, so the cash is available if the event that the agency needs these funds. Couple benefits, it does establish a relationship with a local institution. Historically, we have done some work in prior years with Wells Fargo Bank. So this will be good to kind of see what Mission has to offer. I mentioned it safely diversifies and increases our yield on agency funds and meets all the liquidity needs with no restriction. I don't know if Carmen or Jeff have anything to add, but that's kind of the background on it. And the recommendation this evening is adoption of resolution R23-22, and it designates the signatories on the new account if the board wishes to approve this. And it's consistent with our signing authority on previous accounts the agency have.
I had a question, Matt.
Yes.
The $1 million at 3.5%, does it stay at that if our balance drops below $1 million?
They can correct me, but I think the minimum balance is 1 million, correct?
The minimum balance of what we had agreed on was 1 million. Minimum.
Okay. And if it drops below that, then
You'll still get the 3.5.
Okay.
If it drops too far below that, we'll have to have a conversation.
Okay.
My question would be, is that 3.5%, is that fixed, locked in for that $1 million?
That is locked in. However, rates are increasing. So we are looking at this pretty much weekly or every 2 weeks, and they're continuing to climb. So in the event that we raise them again, we will adjust the rate.
Okay. Yeah, when the Finance Committee reviewed this last week, the thing that kind of caught my eye from years was the FDIC insured and the flexibility of being able to take the money out if we had to for some reason. As long as we don't want to drop it below $1 million, and we want to use this as more of a pilot program to see if we're going to do any more in the future.
Yes.
So I think it's a good idea. I think supporting local entities here is very important. And if we're getting equal or better than we can in the open market, I don't know why we wouldn't want to do this.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I move approval of resolution number R2322.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the 8A-3. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes. Good. Congratulations. And we're looking forward to working together closely. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Mr. Vice Chairman, I just had one comment to Carmen and Jeff. Just want to thank you for all the support you give our community. And I'm on the fair board, and you guys do a great job with our fair and other events in the community. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Rob. We appreciate that very much.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Okay, so item B, this is the High Desert Water Bank Committee. I'm chairman of that.
Unknown caller.
So we go over 8B1, consider possible action on approval of the High Desert Water Bank storage agreement.
Mr. Vice Chairman, please remove that from the agenda.
This is the item that
Actually, I'm in a water
tabled.
board meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got so many. Okay.
We can catch up tomorrow.
Thank
That's
you.
fine.
Okay.
Okay, that takes us, item C, Planning Committee, and Director Rob Harris is chairman of that committee, so Rob wants to take it over.
For item 8C1, I'll ask Peter to present, please.
Thank you, Director Paris. Good evening, board. So the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors Association passed its operating fund budget at its June 8th meeting, but it's contingent on all the participating agencies passing it with their individual boards. So tonight we're asking for your passing of this budget. And our contribution is the standard $10,000. Each agency, Avek, Palmdale Water District, and Little Rock, each contribute $10,000 annually to the operations of the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors Association. And that covers the insurance, memberships, some of the outreach work that we do, but primarily it covers reimbursement of staff time for Palmdale Water Districts and Avek staff that work on behalf of the association. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on the budget.
Anything from the directors? Okay, so we have a board order here at 8C1, so need a motion?
Mr. Vice Chairman, this is Rob. I move approval of Board Order 8C1.
Second.
Second,
Drew.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller, Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes. Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes. Okay,
That brings us to item 8C2. And again, Peter, it's your show. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Director Ferris. So we have before you the Little Rock Creek Recharge Project Agreement. Just a little bit of background. When DWR saw that it was going to be a very wet year, they asked for state water project contractors to be creative and collaborative in ways that they could bring in more of this water. So the Little Rock and PWD and AVEC staff kind of put their heads together and recognized that there was some unused capacity at Little Rock Creek Irrigation District's turnout. So then we recognized there might be a way to move more water there. And we talked to the water master engineer about the potential of just recharging directly into the creek, utilizing that turnout. And then we talked to DWR about their willingness to work with us to deliver Palmdale Water Districts and AVEX water to Little Rock's turnout. And all those pieces were coming together very well. So then we worked on an agreement that would provide Little Rock some compensation for utilizing their infrastructure and allow us to reap the benefit of that additional turnout and bring in more water this year. So the key terms are AVEC and Palmdale Water District will split the startup costs for a little bit of the infrastructure work that need to be done. It's about $3,000 is AVEC's portion of that. AVEC and Palmdale Water District would split the capacity 50-50. But if at any time one of the agencies dropped out or didn't want to use as much, the other agency could utilize the full capacity from Little Rock. And then we would be compensating Little Rock with AV groundwater carryover at the end of the project. So Little Rock just wanted some extra water in the ground. So we'll be at the end of it giving them the equivalent of 20 acre feet per week of use of their turnout. And we'll do a water master transfer later in 2024 to kind of pay them back for that.
I have a question.
Yes.
Because you said a lot.
I did.
In a short period of time. Okay, so let's go back to the turnout. There's an existing turnout. How big is it?
It can do 20 CFS.
How much? Okay, so what about, you said additional one turnout, you're talking the state? Is that what you're looking at, a bigger one?
No, I apologize if I said additional. It's Little Rock's turnout.
So it's gonna be their turnout and we're gonna lease it, rent it from them or partner with them to do that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then, are we able to turn it on now and start letting that water flow?
Essentially, the water's been flowing. So now if we make the agreement, then Little Rock's agreed that that water can be
Oh, so
ours.
turnout's open?
Turnout's open and running.
I didn't know anything about that. That's interesting.
Peter, how much Article 21 have we already put into Little Rock?
Well, the way, because DWR was behind this, they allowed us to start moving water before the agreements were solidified, knowing that someone was going to take ownership over it. So I think to date, we've moved close to 2,000 acre feet of water
do that.
You know,
Great, thank you.
as far as I'm concerned, as long as I've been on this board, I've always wanted to see the water flow out of that turnout, and whatever AVAC can do financially with the partnership, I would increase as much as we possibly can. That water ends up going towards the Edwards Air Force Base eventually anyway, and anything we can do to supplement the east side, this would be the least expensive way of recharging the groundwater basin. So, I know you guys have an agreement here in front of us, but I think we need to be a little more aggressive in seeing how much we can make this more long-term, as much as we can. And with the DIWR, like you said,
Right.
which is unheard of, to allow us to go ahead and do that, I'd be all over it.
All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
How is the flow? Is it affecting Avenue T, Palmville Boulevard? And how would this affect additional water going through?
That's a good question. It was one of the things we were kind of concerned about at first, but Little Rock is overflowing. Little Rock Creek is, flowing pretty rapidly right now. About a month ago, it was at 720 CFS. So we were only contributing another 20 CFS to the total. So currently we're pretty incidental to the total flow. So it is flowing past some of the roads, but our contribution to that is very minimal.
Not going to make the roads worse.
No.
I would also like to make another comment. If there's a way we can somehow work with Palmdale on the reservoir and turn that into a largemouth bass operation, I think that's something we would help the people, our taxpayers, enjoy that recreational use. So please look at that too.
All right.
And Frank, I just had one comment. We have Kathy McLaren and Vince Dino here from Palmdale Water District, and they have at different times, and Kathy currently, since I've been on the Alabama State Water Contractors, have been very supportive of our collaboration together to do things like this. And so has Little Rock. And I think the way the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors is working right now, it lends itself to these type of projects where we can work together to maximize water we can put into this basin. So I just want to thank the two of you and thank you for attending tonight. And with that, I would move approval of Board Order 8C2.
And I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Harris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes. Okay, that ends your report?
That concludes our planning committee report.
Okay.
And Peter, thank you for taking care of all that for us.
My pleasure.
Yeah, that's some real positive news. Okay, so let's bring this over to item B, the Personnel, Legal, and JPIA Committee. Again, Mr. Paris is the chairman of that committee.
And again, I will turn this over now to General Manager Knudsen to
All right.
report.
Thank you, Director Paris, and good evening again. So a little background, this item is for consideration of the board approval of the cost of living or COLA adjustment for the upcoming fiscal year, which begins July 1st through June 30th of 2024. As you know, the agency's practice has been to administer a COLA increase to the employee salaries on an annual basis. And the goal behind this is, we do occasionally do salary surveys. We go out and compare the agency's salaries to other in-kind or other kind agencies that provide similar service in geographically similar areas. And what the COLA does is it keeps that salary survey that we go through current by adjusting the salary each year based on the COLA or the CPI increase. So historically, we have used the month of April. We've looked at the CPI for the LA and Long Beach region. And you can see on the screen there, we have a chart that shows from 2013 through 2023 what that CPI index is. We've highlighted April. And then on far left, you can see what the actual approved amount of the COLA by the Avek board has been. So the Avek board has always been very generous to the employees, and they really appreciate that. So we present this to the Personnel Committee, and the Personnel Committee is recommending that the board approve the 3%, which is the actual CPI for the month of April as compared to April of 2022. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. This will be included, if approved, this will be included in the fiscal year 23-24 personnel budget for the agency.
Mr. Vice Chairman, the Personnel Legal Committee unanimously supports this proposal. And if there's no more discussion, I'll move approval of Board Order 8D1.
I will second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and Madam Secretary, roll call.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy, Frank Donato.
Yes.
And that concludes the Personnel Legal Committee's report, and thank you, Matt, for presenting that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, that brings us to E, Water Master and Groundwater Stewardship Committee. Now, again, it's Mr. Bob Paris.
Thank you. I'm going to have Matt present on this. There is one item on this that I have to recuse myself. So Matt, will you save that last?
Yep.
And I will step out. And so everybody knows, tomorrow at the Water Master Committee, I will also recuse myself, and Matt will be the representative for us on that specific item.
Okay.
And I believe I have to recuse also on that same matter.
That's correct. So we'll go through the.
Slow down, okay. Do we have enough people, what's going on with the,
We still have a quorum.
we do have a quorum?
Yeah, with Keith on the phone.
Okay, the reason I'm bringing this up is once they leave the board room, we no longer have a quorum.
You'll have a quorum with Keith. On the phone.
Keith Dias.
You have 4 people, so you'll have a quorum with Keith on the phone.
Oh, you're right, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, before I get to that, when I get to that item, we'll ask.
Excuse me, I don't, I need our, I thought legally, under the AVAC Act, we have to have 4 bodies here to be able to have a quorum, and Zoom didn't count.
As long as Keith is within the district boundaries, right?
I can't hear what you're saying.
As long as Director Dias is within the district boundaries, is my understanding.
Okay.
Correct.
And he is.
I'm just making sure.
Yep. Good questions.
Okay.
So, the purpose of this item is to go through the Water Master agenda and briefly discuss items being considered by the Water Master tomorrow. As Director Paris mentioned, he will be present for all the items with the exception of one item that he has to recuse himself. So I'll get to that later, but so we'll go through and hit the highlights of the items on the agenda tomorrow. On page 130 of your board packet is a brief memo that hits the highlights. So last couple months, there's been a lot of discussion amongst the Water Master and the various parties regarding cash flow for the Water Master. And, we've hired a new administrator. They took over at the beginning of this year, and we're finding that the expenses are outpacing the revenue for the Water Master. So they project that based on the current burn rate that we'll be out of cash come September, October timeframe. So one item being considered tomorrow is to approve a supplemental 2023 assessment of $5 per acre foot. The advisory committee reviewed this item. They were kind of split on it at first, but then the motion was amended where as long as Hallmark Group, which is the administrator, stayed within their contracted budget amount, they would be supportive of a supplemental $5 per acre foot. And the intent of that $5 per acre foot is to generate enough cash revenue to get us through the end of 2023 and into early 2024. Any questions on that item?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I wish my $5 bill would last that long.
You mean, wish what?
Wish my $5 bill
Oh, yeah.
could last that long.
Right, and that, Matt, that was only for 2023, correct? Not going into 2024?
Correct. This is a one-time supplemental. There would be follow-up discussions about what the assessment needed to be in subsequent years.
You know, and that engineer, watermaster engineer, not the engineer, but the advisor, what are they? The
Administrator.
What are they?
Administrator.
Administrator?
Yeah.
No, who's it?
Todd.
The advisor?
Oh, advisory committee.
No, the consultant.
Okay.
They should leave it. I mean, they made a deal with the water master for 1 year, and all of a sudden, you know, they come out and start sending all kinds of change orders. You know, it just doesn't make sense at all. Things like that.
Well, they started out at 100, and I believe their contract was for 165,000.
Correct.
And now they're wanting 240. Is that the number?
Yeah, I mean, they include some other things in that 240, so it's probably closer to 220.
Okay.
So,
But, you know, like Frank said, it's a change order, and unfortunately, the property owners have to make that good for them. You know, so it's got to come out of somebody's pocket.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I know one thing, we go to bid this agency, the first thing I ask staff is tell those people, look them in the eye and says, directors do not like change orders.
Justin does that all the time.
Yeah, you know, tell us what it is. Don't, you know.
I know Frank Lane or George Lane didn't like change orders. I know that for a fact.
So that's, we'll see where that goes, but I think from AVAC, I would support, my recommendation would be for our rep to support that $5 supplemental assessment. Last thing we want is Watermaster to run out of cash and not conduct
My
business.
question to you is, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's stretched.
Yeah.
So would it be $5 broke up into two different? I think we should cushion that blow a little bit, Matt, probably. The way we charge you, that's $5. It'll be $5 and then in between another $5, or it'll be $10 at one time, or?
No, this would be, because the Watermaster is already invoiced for the $5 in the earlier part of this year.
Second collection.
Second $5.
Okay,
Yeah.
when would that go out?
So if the Watermaster board approved this, I imagine it'd go out within a few weeks to all the producers.
Soon as possible.
Soon as possible.
Okay.
So along that line, the next item is,
And Matt, I'll
yeah.
just add, something I would suggest at the meeting is if this gets approved, that we ask all the public water providers to pay their assessment ASAP so we can continue functioning as a water master.
Since we have Palmdale here, Kathy and Vince, do you guys have any comment on this?
no.
Hey, they have enough trouble doing their rate stuff, so let's keep them off the hook at our meeting.
Thank you.
They want to stretch that $5 too.
Right.
And so along those lines, because there is extra effort involved with preparing those invoices and managing the revenue generated from the invoices, the Hallmark Group, which is the administrator, is asking for a small amendment. This is amendment number 4 of about $5,500 for their time and effort to put out the invoices. So
Which they would have waited till next month.
Yeah.
That won't be part of that that'll come out of that $5 assessment then?
That'll be paid for by revenue generated from the additional $5. Correct.
And then we're gonna let them know that this is a one-time assessment.
Yeah.
Add-on.
Well, we aren't, but he is.
So you, Rob.
I know we'll be looking at the assessment for next year pretty soon, Gary. So.
Yeah.
So we're giving you direction.
I will definitely say we don't want another supplemental assessment this year.
Thank you.
I'll make a point of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The next item is for the water master to adopt the replacement water assessment rate. As you know, Avek just went through our rate study and approved our upcoming 2023-24 water rate. So we historically have used the Avek rate to calculate the replacement water assessment rate for the water master. So our recommendation or our communication to the water master is we've taken that new Avek rate, updated the process using the same methodology, and the proposed rate is on page 130. It's $563 per acre foot for overproduction within the association boundaries, and $1,118 per acre foot if you fall outside the association boundaries. And this is consistent with what we've done the last 5-6 years. It's worked out well for AVAC and Little Rock and Palmdale Water District. So what's a little different this year, so we're communicating what that new rate is for replacement water from the association, which includes AVAC, but we're recommending that the water master consider adding a fee on top of that rate to cover their expense of administering the program, because 100% of the rate that I just mentioned gets passed back through the state water contractors like AVAC. So AVAC, or tomorrow, there should be some discussion amongst the board to tack on a small fee to generate some additional revenue, because there is time and effort and expense associated with administering the program. So that's a recommendation that we had to the water master staff. So we'll see where they go with it.
So we have board orders. So I think we're done with.
I'm not done yet.
Okay.
So a couple more
I didn't know
minutes.
if you were,
Yeah. Oh, I'm
I didn't know if you bled into the general manager's report. That's what I asked.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be a long meeting tomorrow, Frank.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty lengthy. We talked about tabling the storage agreement.
Can I make a comment when you the last statement you just made?
Yeah.
There's got to be a mechanism to help that $5 rate for the new users, because if it wasn't for some of the AVAC directors fighting for that with Judge Komar, that because they were disallowed to have any 20,000 parcels, we're not supposed to be able to get any water whatsoever. And AVAC stuck their neck out and said, what if we have a plan that they can replenish the water? And it really is, it's in the best interest of them that when they drill a well, they're able to get water, plus they're going to help replenish what they take out. So,
yeah.
That's how I kind of look at it.
I agree with you, Frank.
So there's got to be something that the water master and the advisory come up. You know, I don't want to gouge anybody, but it's a privilege. They're able to drill a well after that stipulated judgment. You know, they didn't have any hope. So it's something for the water master and the advisory committee got to maybe think something there.
Yeah. Good point. We have a laundry list of transfers. The first one is our annual transfer from AVAC to LA County Waterworks. AVAC has with Waterworks for them to lease a portion of AVAC's production rights. So every year we go through process of calculating that quantity of water under the lease agreement. There's an escalated price associated with that lease amount. So this is transferring 2,469.39 acre feet from AVAC's production rights to LA County Waterworks. So it's a one-time transfer. It's not a permanent transfer, but we go through this each year.
Now, is there a cost of living in there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a CPI increase to the $50. It started at $50 5-6 years ago.
I don't know who negotiated that deal.
Yeah,
That was
I
a
know.
joke.
I've seen
I
his
think it
name
was
on the
voted on by the whole board, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Then there's a laundry list of pretty small transfers, most of them being temporary between parties to the judgment. They've all been reviewed and recommended by the advisory committee. The advisory committee did not have any objection to any of those listed on page 131, item A through H. New production applications, the Barrel Springs Properties is going to be back on the agenda for the Water Master tomorrow. This is the one that was denied a couple months ago. So I think Director Paris is well up to date on that item. And then there's a couple of small new production applications from parties that we've seen in the past. Ron Bannock, and then there's a new one for single family residents. Then there's the Kyles who farm out on the east side. They want to do a new point of extraction for their production right. That was recommended to be approved. And then there's 2 replacement wells that were also recommended by the advisory committee to be approved. So I think that covers everything with the exception of the item where Directors Paris and Van Dam need to kind of step out for now, and
let's go get a drink.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Is that considered far enough?
Yeah, you probably should just to be safe.
You got it.
All right, they have
Okay, so
they have left building. So we talked about this last month. It's back again. So there is a disputed transfer between the Van Dams parties or family. And as you know, Rob Paris has to recuse himself because he helped try to negotiate or settle the differences between the Van Dams. And me as the alternate, I'm looking for direction from the board because really that's the way we need to approach this, that being that it's an AVEC seat on the Water Master, I need to get direction on which way to go. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jim Markman if he's still on the phone. He has a recommended approach to this issue.
Yes, I am still on the phone. Thank you. So first of all, I'm going to slightly disagree with Matt because he is the alternate and he should take direction from the AVEC staff. But this is a situation where if he took a position on the substance of this argument as to whether Craig Van Dam could have transferred out of the Van Dam dairy substantial millions of dollars worth of water rights and then retransfer them. That's a financial interest to one of the board members, and he works for the board. So I think he's got a particular problem and should recuse himself. Even if he didn't have a legal analysis involved with this, it's pretty uncomfortable or pretty amazing that anyone would expect the chief executive of a water district to essentially make a decision that would have clearly a financial effect one way or the other on one of its elected board members. So this is a hard situation. And the other part of it that makes it hard is that unlike probably any other judgment we've seen, the judgment in the Antelope Valley adjudication requires a unanimous vote of all of the board positions to approve this transfer and very many other things. So they the judgment and the rules and regulations virtually block this from being approved or disapproved, so long as one of the board positions is essentially required to recuse on it and abstain. So this keeps coming back, and I've had a long talk with Craig Parton, the attorney for the water master, and I've told him, I said, I don't understand why this keeps coming back, and it's all because of one sentence in the rules and regulations that we wrote, and I was the head of the committee that wrote all those rules and regulations, and it concerned water transfers, and what we were requiring was that you shouldn't accept something on the written on a napkin transfer water rights. You should have a water rights transfer that had some validity obvious in it. So we required transfer documents to be notarized, and then a sentence was put on there that said the water master could consider any issue as to whether it was an authentic transfer. Well, the problem with that is now that's been that line, which I think was very narrow in intent, looking at the actual document that made the transfer, to be sure nobody could just do a fraudulent transfer. Now it puts the water master, by bringing it up to the water master, puts the water master in the position of dealing with very, very complex legal issues involving the Van Dam family trust and the LLC that's running the dairy and the relationship of the brothers and other assets. And I don't think the water master is in a position to adjudicate that kind of complex issue over who owns this water right and can actually transfer it. And I'm not even sure Judge Komar would take that up on appeal under the jurisdiction in a water management judgment. So it's very, very difficult. I understand Craig is in a bad spot because of that one sentence. The only way I can see this changing that could cause it to move forward, one of two things would have to happen. The rule could be changed, the unanimous rule could be changed, or that one sentence in the rules could be modified to show this particular type of issue doesn't belong in front of the water master. Or at some point in time, Avek could have another representative as the alternate representative that isn't working for Gary Van Dam, essentially, as an elected official. But if one of those things doesn't happen, as long as we're still in the same position, it seems to me we're going to run into a position where AVAC can't act on this through any of the representatives that are active in AVAC. Rob is recusing because he actually tried to mediate this very dispute, and he has to stay neutral as a mediator before, after, and during the mediation. So that takes him out. So another curious thing happened the last 48 hours. I received a letter yesterday from a lawyer on behalf of Craig Van Dam, and he was complaining that Matt may want to go and move to table this, which is that's not a motion on the merits, so it's not a conflict of interest. It takes this out of play. Instead of waiting to see if somebody makes a motion to approve or disapprove, the minute the conversation started on the merits, Matt would have to follow Rob out of the room, and then Craig Parton would have to say, we don't have all the members of the board represented here. It just takes a unanimous vote. So you couldn't act on it. I didn't see the point of one versus the other. He made an implication that, well, people should see that there's something going on because Matt has a relationship with Gary because Gary's on the board. And I wrote the guy back and said, I can't imagine anyone interested in the water master who wasn't aware of that, since this has already happened 2 times and you're going for a triple. So anyway, I think Matt's inclination still is to move to table this, and he can explain why. That yes.
Slow down, Jim. Please slow down. Okay, slow down. You got a lot of energy tonight. I'm going to tell you right now, as a director, this has no business with AVAC. Nothing. AVAC has nothing to do with this. We're not a judge. We're not a jury. And you know what? This shouldn't even be brought to AVAC. As one director, and I think all of us, honest to God, we should abstain. If someone wants to, just abstain, because we should not be involved. This is the McCoys against the whoever the heck they call them over in the South. You know, it's a battle between them. They should deal with it outside. But why is AVAC even brought into this?
I think that you're only being consulted, and we're doing it in the open, as you can see, Frank, as we did at the last meeting, because your general manager there's pressure coming on. And Matt is trying to do what the board would think would be appropriate.
The directors tell the manager what we want him to do, okay? And it's time, you know, to perk up and say, Matt, you're out of it, and we're not going to make a sound. We're just going to sit back and let them deal with it.
Okay, and I think that's really we're trying to get there, Frank. But he has to know the board's behind him when he does this stuff. He's
but he works for us.
That's right. That's right.
So we instruct him to stay out of the conversation. Our board has instructed him not to go any further. He just says, "I can't talk to you." Says, "I'm done with that. We're done."
Yeah, I think if I could jump in, Jim. So when this item, you know, when the agenda tomorrow gets to this item, Rob's going to immediately step out of the room, and then I, as his alternate, have to step in. I think, you know, one approach would be to just simply say I have to recuse myself due to a conflict and leave the room with Rob, or I could request to table the item, see if that gets support from the rest of the board.
You shouldn't even vote on that. You should have nothing to do with the vote that deals with this issue. Nothing. Because every one of us on this board is tied to this whole situation. I mean, on the streets. And the thing is, we're not the judge and we're not the jury. That acre feet, you know what they should do? Take it to Colmar. Take it to Judge Colmar and make him make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure he would decide this for him.
Well, I'm speaking out loud here, but the thing is, I'm not, you know what? You want something from us? I'm going to tell you right now, I will 100% abstain from the motion, so you don't have a full vote. You don't have enough.
I think you tried to table it before, and the tabling
didn't work.
Came back.
Yeah, it came back again.
Yeah, we're trying to be, you know, and I don't know why we even tabled it, because we're not involved with the darn deal.
Yeah.
Well, there was a hope maybe they could settle it, but I don't think that's a very likely thing.
Now they got an attorney. You know, I mean, where's this going to end? I mean, you know, now we're going to have 3 or 4 attorneys involved in something that doesn't involve AVAC?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing, I mean, we have to have a position of some sort tomorrow. So even if that is, I simply abstain or recuse myself from the vote and not participate in the conversation.
You're not even involved.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, you can go out, you can go the fast route out, just go out, let Parton say what he has to say when you leave.
Yeah, don't even vote on a table or anything, just excuse yourself and let the 4 of them decide what they want to do.
Yeah.
That's your instruction.
That sound.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, well, what about you? Keith, what do you think?
Are you suggesting that we ask Matt to abstain?
Yes.
No, just leave the room when that item comes up.
Right.
Let's define it better. Is it abstaining or is it?
No. If he leaves, those 4 directors, they need 5 votes, and automatically.
Right. He needs to say why he's going to recuse himself and leave the room. He needs to announce why, which is obvious to everybody because he's a general manager of AVEC, and one of the people claiming the water right is a director of AVEC. That's enough. That's all he has to say.
Yeah, I think my recommendation is, if the board concurs, tomorrow when Rob steps out of the room and I have to step in, that I simply say I have to recuse myself.
Just tell the directors asked you to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
And you didn't do that. We asked you to do that.
Exactly.
And that's who you're employed by.
Yep.
And that way you're protected.
Yep.
You've been instructed.
That's good too. If that's unanimously the feeling of the board, that's helpful.
Sounds like we have, are you good with that, Keith,
Yep.
guys?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Okay, so
so we have direction.
So we're not even gonna vote on even that.
Well, we have a consensus that. I
Yeah,
have
that's what I'm
direction.
saying. I don't want anything for the record that we, for the record, they got the minutes, they can hear what I said.
Yeah.
The rest of the director said that we want you involved with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else you got?
And that's it. That's the last item that I wanted to mention today or for tomorrow's meeting, and hopefully those parties figure it out. Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, we can call Rob and Gary back.
Okay, so are we gonna bring them back to vote on the rest? Well, that's a question because.
Well, we don't need to, we've gone through the agenda. As we went through the items, we got clear direction.
So we don't need to do anything with them?
We don't.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yep.
So that brings them now back in to go item 9?
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Oh, McCoy's in the Hatfields.
Yeah.
I don't do that with them. Okay, so we're item 9, and this is the general manager's report on water surveys and projects and programs.
All right. Thank you, Director Donato. So pretty short and sweet report this evening. Going forward, I'm not going to every board meeting update on state water project supplies and hydrology because we're kind of in a period where it doesn't change much. We all know it's dry. We all know the reservoirs are very high, and we have a lot of water. So I thought I'd focus real quickly on the water supply snapshot and our plan. This changed a little bit from our last meeting. The customer deliveries, this uptick to a couple thousand acre feet from previously. We are seeing an increased demand from our customers, primarily LA County Waterworks. They're backing off on their groundwater production and they're taking more AVAC water through our south feeder system, which gets treated through the Court Cell water treatment plant. So that's good news for everybody, relax the groundwater production and increase import water supplies. So we've increased that. Our target is still about 60,000 acre feet of recharge. That's maximizing everything we have, including the West Side Water Bank, East Side Water Bank, Low Rock Creek, as well as Upper Amargosa. So like I said, that target is about 60,000, a couple thousand in transfers. We still would like to target about 20,000 acre feet in San Luis Reservoir going into 2024. That could change depending on the spill of the risk of spill in early 2024. So we'll keep our eye on that. And so that leaves about 53,000 acre feet of surplus. So we are scheduled to meet with the committee next Friday to present the options that Peter and I have been working on with assistance from Tom Barnes about various options to transfer, exchange that surplus water, just so it doesn't go to waste. Our total supplies available this year is going to be close to 170,000 acre feet. That's 100% of our Table A amount plus the Article 21 water that we've been receiving. So we're going to do the best we can to maximize the transfers, exchange opportunities that are out there. It is tough right now because there's so much water from that throughout all the agencies. So there's not a lot of interest in surplus water right now, but we think we can get close to that 53,000 number. So that will probably come to the full board at the next meeting once we go through the committee process on that. So, any questions on the water supply picture? It's all good news.
the great news
Yeah.
is that this is automatically going to carry over next year, and we're going to be able to do pretty much the same thing anyway.
Yeah, it's more, or next year will be another great year. You know, just with everything being so full, it's going to be a above average water year for us. So, next slide. So here I'm going to turn it over to John Bozigan, our operations manager. We had a little incident yesterday on our north feeder, and he's going to tell you about that. Oops.
Is that when John, we're doing the pipeline?
This is the west feeder.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so if you look at the screen, I'll do an overview of the west feeder. This takes raw water from the aqueduct. It's not a potable line, it's a raw water line. And it takes it from Fairmont, and it takes it all the way to the Rosamond treatment plant. And we've been running the Rosamond plant on raw water for the first time in about 8 years instead of using groundwater wells. What happened was this is a 48-inch line. It transitions to a 60-inch line at this point, and then transitions back to a 36-inch line at this point. Now, the plans say it's a 36-inch line. It's identified as that, but we know that our plans sometimes aren't 100% accurate. So that being said, the leak location is 115th Street West and Gaskell Road. It has been leaking for a long time. It just finally surfaced. The bottom of the pipe was pretty blown out, and we had to isolate. So what we did is we closed the valve here so that we could still bank at the west side water bank. We don't want to stop doing that. So we closed the valve here, so we're still doing our water banking. But unfortunately, we can't send water to the Rosamond treatment plant until we get this repaired. That being said, we are going to feed the north feeder via the SNF line like we've done before.
SNF line, and we wouldn't have that problem.
Thank God. Thank God we have the SNF line. So the good news is nobody's out of water. No customers are affected. It's a raw water line, so it'll be very easy when the fix is made. We'll flush the line out into the raw water reservoir at Rosamond. It doesn't have to be disinfected or anything, so that's the good news. The bad news is it's going to be a relatively costly repair. We're going to meet with the contractor tomorrow morning. It'll be a time and materials type repair because we don't know exactly what he's going to get into. But we're going to meet with him tomorrow morning, and we're hoping that within 2 weeks it's repaired and it's back up and running. Further, not so great news is, I've addressed the board before, and this is about the fourth leak we've seen in the last 2 years at our different feeders. So pipelines are only as good as the proactive about the action of pipelines. They send a camera down, they can tell what the coating's like, what the lining's like, see if there's any corrosion, and then we can make decisions in the future on weak points in our system, what we're going to do, how we're going to repair them. Another good news is technology's come a long way. You don't have to necessarily replace a pipeline. You can reline it. You can imagine LEDWP, Metropolitan, pipelines under Wilshire Boulevard. You're not going to dig up Wilshire Boulevard and replace pipes. They reline them. So it's great technology out there. But there are going to be some costs in the future to keep our system in the condition that the people expect it to be. So.
Question, John, how long do you think that thing's been leaking like that?
Well, let me put it this way. There was a huge bush about 20 feet away, and there was a root that was about the size of your arm that had grown right to that gap in the pipe. I don't know how long that takes, but I would say we pressured it back up. About a month and a half ago. And before then, there was just water, and it was leaking gravity-wise. But I think it's been leaking for several years. We cut a coupon out of the pipe, Frank, and the pipe's supposed to be 3/16 thick steel, and the part that blew out is thin as a piece of paper.
Do you think that's why Rosamond's lack of buying our water has been recharging their wells? Do you think that might have something to do with it?
Well, we didn't put a meter on the leak, so it's possible. So anyway, we're on it. We're going to get this thing fixed. And like I said, nobody's out of water. We have SNP, and so we can continue to serve our customers without an interruption. So we'll bring more to you in the future with the repair and so forth.
The question is going to be, how fast can you get the pipe?
Well, the good thing is the contractor that WM Lyles is always our go-to. They can't do it. They're completely busy with the high-speed rail. This is what they're doing now. So we want to Sierra Construction that has been doing some repair work for Avek for the last 6 months. They have actually a piece of 36-inch diameter CMLC in their yard. So, and it's a standard size, Frank. It's not some oddball size pipe, thankfully.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we can get it. I think within 2 weeks, Lord willing, I think we'll have it fixed. Yeah.
Don, you think we ought to wear a couple sticks just to have some backup on that?
You know, Gary, I think we're going to see what the availability is. Certainly, if that stretch, if they dig back and they see that, hey, it's not just this one joint, we have several, then I think we should probably stockpile a little bit of that.
Good idea.
Mm-hmm. So more to follow.
All right. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
And just a couple minor things. We kind of beat the water master to death, but that meeting's tomorrow at 10 o'clock. You're at AVAC or on Zoom. And then we have the 4th of July holiday coming up next Tuesday, which office will be closed. So with that, be happy to answer any questions you may have. But everything's good with the exception of the leak.
Okay, that brings us to item 10, director's report. Does any directors have anything to report on? Okay.
At the fireworks at the fairgrounds on the 4th of July, if anybody
Like that size up.
wants to go to the fireworks, everybody's invited.
Okay.
I was point out, I noticed the state budget agreement that was made, the governor dropped funding for the Delta Conveyance Project. So I don't know if that just means that the project's dead or they're gonna try to get the funding out of us.
What do you mean by that? I don't understand.
So the state budget, they passed the state budget over the weekend or came to an agreement. And the article I was reading said that the deal was the governor drops the Delta Conveyance Project because those North Central Valley legislators don't like it.
And Pete, do you want to add on to that? What portion of the state budget was earmarked for the Delta Conveyance Project?
I think
there was a request to have funds in there for it.
Yeah.
But there wasn't, DWR wasn't relying on that being put through. So I don't think it impacts our current plans for the Delta Conveyance Project.
Yeah. And the state water contractors is scheduled to meet the next couple of weeks to talk about that issue, Drew, and see what impact it has on the state water contractors.
Okay.
I don't know how we're going to get any money for that. It's been telling us.
Oh, yeah.
That thing is. Help discover a bowling alley will stop the whole project.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, director's report. Okay. Number 11, attorney's report.
Nothing to report, Director.
Okay. Request for future agenda items. Okay. Item 14, closed session. And what items are we?
We're going to go in for items A and B, as in boy.
Okay. So let's, I needed a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Vice President, I will move to go into closed session. Director Miller.
Second.
Hey,
Mercy.
Drew seconded. Okay. All in roll call, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
And Holly, I don't think I need to be transferred in.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. It's going